Hey, what is up, awesome people? Shady Wags here, and so far I have put around 80 hours into Hellion, and I feel like I'm ready to give my review on this game, but this is probably not as much as a review of Hellion as it is more of a public warning against early access titles. Early access, preview titles, pay to enter, alpha, Kickstarter, call it what you will. All these can be very advantageous for an independent developer as it offers them a public venue to sell their unfinished game to the consumer. They get funds to possibly put towards possibly finishing the game, and you are given access to possibly start playing the unfinished product right now. Notice I said possibly 3 times in the last statement. Just because the title is in early access does not mean that the revenue they receive has to be put towards efforts to finish the game. It also does not mean the game will ever be finished, nor does that mean just because you've shelled out the cash that you're even going to be able to play the game at the time of purchase. Steam states that early access games are not complete and may or may not change further. If you're not excited to play the game in its current state, then you should wait to see if the game progresses further in development. Xbox Live pretty much states the same thing about preview titles. So what they're saying is buyer beware. This feels like, as a consumer, you're the one taking all the risk. But this does work both ways because by releasing an unfinished game, a developer is risking their game and their company's reputation on an unfinished product. Bugs, mismanaged patches, and a lack of communication with the community are several of many factors that could contribute to a game receiving bad reviews, which in return could adversely affect the popularity of a game. I personally have had nothing but good experiences with early access titles in the past, and by opting to take that gamble was able to get in early and play some great titles like Ark Survival Evolved and 7 Days to Die. I was able to contribute, give my feedback, bug test, and watch those games grow and evolve into what they are today. So my opinion of early access has been pretty favorable until I purchased Hellion. See, Hellion suffers from one thing, and that's bugs. And I'm not talking about 1 or 2. This game has so many bugs that they need to call in a whole fleet of exterminators to clean it up. Now, in fairness, most of them are easily resolved by logging in and logging out, but some of them are so bad that they make the game virtually unplayable. Normally, a couple of bugs here and there are not a big deal. You just encounter them and then you just move on. But see, the thing with Hellion is the game is very difficult, it's very technical, and sometimes requires precision movement. And many of these bugs affect these factors of the game. And with the game being overly technical, it does require a certain amount of time to get started. And if you encounter one of these bugs, it can quickly result in your death and having to completely start over again. And not to mention, you may not even be able to play the game at all. My good friend Tommy Bruce purchased the game at the same time as me, and our gaming rigs are very similar. The only difference is the CPUs we're running. While I was able to play the game, he could not play it in increments of more than 5 minutes a time before it would blue screen his PC. He did contact Zero Gravity, and they responded 4 days later that they were aware of the issue and he should keep an eye out for an upcoming patch. When he inquired back about the exact specifics of the issue and a time frame at which he could expect, all he was told was just to keep an eye out. Well, that was 2 weeks ago and he still can't play. Zero Gravity has attempted to fix some of the issues by releasing 2 patches within the first 2 weeks of release. Well, the problem is both of those patches introduced even more bugs. And the second patch was a complete debacle as it was released on a Friday and it completely broke the game, making navigation impossible. And it also resulted in hundreds upon hundreds of dedicated servers being unable to log into the main server, making Hellion a ghost town for 3 days. The result of all this is that on the first day of release, Hellion topped the Steam charts and was receiving overly positive support. Well, now 2 weeks later, the game is nowhere to be found on the charts, and public review is now mixed and slipping towards negative. Because of all the bugs, I just can't recommend this game to anyone, and that might seem hypocritical because I have done guides for the game. And that's the real kicker, because despite all these bugs, and despite all the time I've wasted with this game, I really like Hellion. Hellion is so overly technical. Things like docking a module or successfully flying the ship They feel like real skills. It feels like you're doing something more than just hitting a couple buttons. The atmosphere is just something like I haven't experienced in very many games. I really felt like I was in deep space. I felt like this was my base and this was my ship. And I knew even the slightest mistake could put my life in danger and lead me floating away in space to my death. And that's just a very rare thing for a video game to invoke those kinds of emotions without the aid of virtual reality. But as much as I wanted to continue playing, I just couldn't justify sinking any more time into a game where it takes hours to accomplish small tasks than to have the entire gaming session wiped out in seconds due to a bug resulting in my death and then having to start completely over again. So finally, that leads me to question, who's deciding and approving what games are accepted into early access, and what are the criteria? Because in my opinion, Hellion was not ready, and while Zero Gravity may have received several days of acclaim and a boost to their cash flow, I really fear that the damage to the reputation of Hellion may have lasting effects. I hope you guys found this information useful. If you did, I really would appreciate it if you hit that thumbs up button. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, have a good one.